Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to our Sister Girls Book Club book chat for the month of March. We have the talented ML Bash joining us this evening. Um, First and foremost, want to apologize for the delay. Had a little technical difficulties on the back end, but we got it fixed. We got it figured out. Um, ML Bash, welcome to Sister Girls
Thank
Book Club book
you.
chat. I'm very, very excited to have you here with us tonight. I am going to run through some quick icebreaker questions. This shouldn't take long. Don't think about the answers, just the
Okay.
first one that comes to mind. Okay?
Okay.
Water, wine, coffee, or tea?
Tea.
Morning or night?
Night.
Me too. Digital or print?
Print.
Standalone or a series?
Standalone.
And music or quiet?
Not quiet. The other option.
Music?
Yes. Sorry, I
Oh,
heard something or quiet, and I was like, well, I can't type in quiet at all anyway.
oh,
So
music. Okay. And when you
definitely.
are not writing, what are you doing?
Dealing with animals. My family has a little farm.
Shut the front door. Amazing. Okay. So is that how we saw a little bit of that in why can't I think of the title of the book?
Nobody to love you better.
That one? You knew what you say
Yes.
you knew what
Yes, I just moved back to Louisiana from Florida, so I guess moving back home, I was like, I'll write some farm stuff since I'm back home.
that was the first book I read by you, and I was like, I haven't caught all the way up, but I started reading some backlog stuff, and I was like, this is spicy. Jeez. So let's talk about that. I'm gonna jump right
Okay.
into it, like just straight into the fire.
Okay.
When you started your writing career,
Hmm.
did you initially know you wanted to be a spicy writer?
I did not. I just want to be a writer.
Okay, and what made you want to be a writer? Like, what started your desire to want to write?
So in Louisiana, I don't know if this is everywhere, but we have like these GC classes, and I had to take one, and I took writing. So my mom started putting me in poetry contests in
Someone
like second, third grade,
like a general something class.
like a gifted, talented class where
Oh,
you get like a
yeah. Okay.
class to do something that's not school curriculum, kind of.
Okay, noted. Okay, thank you for clearing that up. Okay.
Yeah. So I started doing poetry that way, and my mom started putting me in competitions, and then it just kind of developed from there, from like poetry to short stories to books.
So with the poetry, right? As a
Hmm.
child, what were you writing about? Just out of pure curiosity.
I feel like the dumb generic stuff that all kids write about, like boys, or like I wrote some historical fiction
So
ones just because that was a category.
the boys was always there. Hi.
A
Okay, young
little,
lady.
little bit.
A little bit. All right. So when did the multiple boys come into play?
Uh, I want to say maybe 2022, 2023. I wrote As Long as You Never Fold, and it well no, that was Two Girls and a Guy, but that was when I did my first poly book. And I
That
didn't
was
write
the
another
first.
one for
Okay,
like
I
a
did read
year.
that. I did read that one. So that was your first poly book. So maybe I didn't go
Yes.
back far enough because that's the one with the two strippers.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one where the guy was in foster care with the girl. He finds
Mm-hmm.
her. Okay, just want to make sure I get my storylines correct. Okay, did read that. He ended up finding his brother, his sister. The mama left all of them except the youngest.
Yep.
Okay, so that was your first stab at a poly book.
Yes.
I don't want to talk about that book because that's not what we're talking about tonight. Oh, it looks like we have some people viewing this. If you're here, check in the chat room, say hi, say what's on your mind, leave some thoughts for author ML Bash, leave some questions. We're going to try to get to it, even though we started late. Okay, so what inspired you to try your hand at polyamorous? Because that's kind of your thing now. Like that's what it's like a thing.
Yeah. Um, at the time when I wrote it, okay, so we're gonna just get into all my business.
I mean,
So
you can pass. You can say no, thank you. Listen, this is not about you, but I just before we get into the book, I'm just curious because I feel like it's such a taboo topic, but we are seeing it more and more. And I'm just curious as to what made you say, "Oh, you know what? Y'all finna get these books." And if you don't, because I looked at your social media, and you have very much a if you don't like this, don't read it. Kind of, you don't say that, but that's pretty much what you're telling the people.
I just feel like the audience for your book will always find your book. So
Come
like not
on.
everybody's gonna like everything, but the people that do like it, I have faith that they're gonna eventually find it. And if you don't like it, you might like the next one that doesn't have this trope. You know what I mean?
Okay. But okay, so what
Oh,
started you down the lane of this trope, the PG version where we don't have to get all in your business?
okay. So I think it was kind of like a place in my life where I was like, coming off this breakup, and I was like, okay, so nobody can really be everything that you want and need all the time.
Hello.
So I think I went into it with that mindset, um, which is also why I feel like I make like when they're partners, I always make them completely different. Like one will be softer than the other one, et cetera, et cetera. Because it's kind of like it's unfair for you to put that weight on someone to be all of these things all of the time. Which,
Yeah,
granted, I know monogamy works for people and that sort of thing, but I just feel like it's easy for me to make it make sense in my characters when looking at it through that lens.
I love that. And I love that you said that because one of the questions I have is, about Nova and Casmi are just two completely different women. And
Mm-hmm.
how Knight was with both of those women, it really showed that he was a compassionate and sympathetic like lover because
Mm-hmm.
Nova went into this marriage the way this community is described a lot later than what is usual. So she had built
Mm-hmm.
herself into this, I hate the term, but a strong, independent black woman, right? I hate it.
Right.
But to herself, when Knight asks, "What is one thing you need from me?" she very blatantly says, "I need you to accept that I am not docile. I'm not soft. My dad,
Mm-hmm.
I trained with my dad's staff, and her dad has a security firm. So she's like, I trained with my dad's staff. I know how to shoot. I know how to use knife. I know how to kill, stab, stab. Like I'm about to."
Okay.
And I think like she was very forward in saying, I need to be loved as a woman, but I also need the room
Mm-hmm.
to be this. Like, did you deliberately make her character? Like I said, I hate the term, but this strong black woman, like, and she wasn't old. They were still in her, she was still in her 20s, but it was later than this
Mm-hmm.
community expects marriage. So tell us
Yes.
about the development of her character. And then on the other hand, we had the opposite, which is Casmine, who's very docile, and not just because of the situation she was in, but that was just her natural
Mm-hmm.
characteristic, personality.
So when I went into the series, I went into it and I built the brothers off of each other. So like I decided what brother I want to do what and went from there.
Mm-hmm.
So they were built around Night, kind of to show like that balance of him as a person.
Okay.
So like there's one that like feeds into his harder side, one that feeds into his softer side, and then they feed into each other's in that same way. So like Nova trained Casmi. So even though she was like a softer person, she was like, yeah, but you still know how to defend yourself. And like Casmi talked to Nova about like, well, you can express your feelings. So I feel like they fed into each other and him in those separate ways. So I kind of built them based on each other.
Okay. And they became besties that quickly turned into lovers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but let's talk about like this will be a series.
Mm-hmm.
Knight's book is the first in this series.
Mm-hmm.
What made you start with Knight, who is not the oldest brother, which is very atypical to do, starting with the second oldest, especially because the first oldest is already married. He's
Mm-hmm.
already established as the head of the family. The he is the boss.
Mm-hmm.
So
Um, so the same way I built it based on the brothers, I had King's story picked out first.
okay,
But I feel like the direction I want to take his story and his dynamic requires him to go last. So I just skipped over him completely. So like it will go in order from like knight, rook, bishop, and then king. So it will be oldest to youngest. I just circled king at the bottom.
okay. Is there any particulars you can tell us, just out of curiosity? Because
I feel like it'll make more sense when the next book comes out. When Rook's
Okay.
book comes out.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm interested because he seems very stable in his life, in his role, in his marriage. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious as to what the friction is going to be there. Just,
Mm-hmm.
um Nova and Night. This book had like triple troped up. Like it was like it was, I want to commend you because it was a lot, but it wasn't distracting.
Okay.
It wasn't
Thank you.
distracting.
That's
Some
good.
books can be a lot, and it's like, now why'd you have to go and put that in there? Like, I'm serious. Some books can be a lot where it's like that extra layer was not necessary. It didn't
Mm-hmm.
really add to the story. With all of the arranged marriages that are arranged marriage material that is in the market, this layered trope gave this story kind of a standout. Like it made it different. I love
Thank
arranged
you.
marriages. I think they're great. I wish our community would participate in more arranged marriages. I think that it would make the marriage rate more successful. This is my personal opinion. I've
No, I
had
agree with that
since
also.
I was in high school. I went to a private boarding school, and I felt like it would make more sense for people to date within their direct demographic.
Mm-hmm.
But that's neither here or there. So I love arranged marriage material. Like that's like a big top trope of mine in
Mm-hmm.
romance. So when I saw this, it's like, okay, you're getting the arranged marriage, but you're getting this level of spice.
Mm-hmm.
What made you want to add the razzle dazzle? Like, where did the razzle dazzle? Like, where do you be just grabbing the razzle dazzle from? Like,
Okay, so
tell us about the process. Like, break it down.
I was actually worried about it because since they met on
Really?
their wedding day and like the type of person Knight is, where he was like, "Well, I'm not gonna pressure you." They weren't together sexually till like halfway through the book. Like it was like 48% in before like they had that club scene. If the club scene was the first scene, um, and even then, when I originally wrote it, that club scene did not exist. It started with them getting home after the club. So
Hmm.
I already had edited everything when I went back and added that club scene. So I was actually worried. So I'm glad you said that.
This book has been received fairly well, though. This has
Yeah.
been like this is another one of my. I was aware the other book we discussed was the first book, and I saw that all over TikTok. It's like, you got to
Okay.
read this book. You got to read this book. You got to read this book. And I was like, why do I have to read this book? And somebody was like, because you are a spicy reader connoisseur. So you have to get into this author because she's a spicy mommy. And I was like, what? Say
And I
what?
feel like that is hilarious because I was not a spicy author till like 2023. And I was accidentally roped into being a spicy author. Because we were doing like a team project with some eroticas. So that was my first erotica ever.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh wait, this is fun. And I just kind of stuck to it. But like I had never tried it. Like it wasn't on my mind to try it until this project. And now I love it. So
And now it's like, but do you? That's so interesting to me because I, you have a good back catalog, but
thank you.
spicy books, it seems like it's what's getting you the momentum. Correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
because I was like, I love spicy books. I've been reading spicy books for a very long time. There's no shame. I tell people all the time my favorite genres are urban, but if you can mix
Mm-hmm.
urban and erotica, or you know, something about that, because we are sexual beings as well, and
Mm-hmm.
we don't we're not monoliths. We fit into every trope.
Mm-hmm.
And I think and that brings me to the next question about this is the third trope that we're in. Now we're also mafia trope.
Mm-hmm.
That is starting to become big in the African American community. This is a mafia. This is let me see if I get this right. An arranged marriage mafia erotica.
Yeah.
Is it erotica because there is a throuple, or is it erotica because of the spicy scenes?
I feel like if it's categorized as erotica, it's because of the throuple. Because I feel like this isn't one of like my spiciest books.
Okay, so let's talk about tropes and genres and breaking this down.
Okay.
Why can't a throuple just be romance?
That's what I'm okay, because I personally wouldn't have categorized this book as erotica.
Oh,
but that's just like,
but that's the category.
Nobody to Love You Better. People were like, oh, it's just a cute romance book. And I was like, okay. Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, it does come up in the erotica category.
Yes. Sometimes I just get pinged for things. Like I put things in urban fiction and I've had Amazon change it to erotica.
Okay. Actually. I'm not making this up. When I look at
yes.
They put the categories and it's labeled as erotica. Mm-hmm. So you as the author do not feel like this is an erotica novel.
Not necessarily. Like I feel like Sensual Affair or like Nami's Ecstasy, I feel like those are erotica because if I took the sex out, they wouldn't have a storyline. Like I feel like if I took out the sex out of this book, there would still be like the arranged marriage. They'd still be like her issues with her husband. Like I don't feel like the book is based around the sex. In my opinion.
I agree with you. And I only put those tropes. I only said that arranged marriage, mafia, romance, erotica, because that's what comes up.
Yeah.
So we're going to drop the erotica and we're going to keep everything else. Arranged marriage, mafia, romance.
Yeah.
Okay. Woo. That's still a mouthful right there.
I know.
Okay. In this novel, these characters are very respectful with their communication and their boundaries. Do you research this community to present it in a tasteful and respectful way? How much research goes into your books and specifically to present the spiciness in a safe way?
So I have like friends in real life that are poly, so sometimes I'll ask them questions.
Okay.
But for the most part, dynamic wise, I think my issue is I've never been in a poly dynamic. So I feel like a lot of issues that people actually have in these dynamics, I don't touch on just because I don't feel qualified to touch on them.
Which makes me want to ask this next question.
Okay.
Would you ever pen a problematic poly relationship?
I feel like I would work up to it.
Okay.
Because I've talked to people about it, like also like in that lifestyle. And I was like, well, maybe I'll have like issues with parenting differences. Because when you have that many different opinions in one place, you know what I mean? Like I was like, I can add issues that are issues in monogamous relationships as well as poly relationships. And then build from there as I get more comfortable with showing these things. But as of right now, today, I don't feel like I'm ready.
Okay.
I don't feel like I'm all the way there yet.
I love that you said that because sometimes people jump out the boat without learning how to swim. And you know what happens when you jump out of a boat and you don't know how to swim. I mean, unless you're on land, earth, but if you're in water, you're more than likely to drown.
Yeah, and I just feel like it also already has like a negative stigma around it. So I don't want to indirectly push into that, knowing that's not my community.
And that's why I asked about the research and how you present it, because it's done very, very tasteful and respectful, where it's like even the problems that, we have seen in very public polyamorous relationships. Not sure if you have followed any of the famous ones or, rather popular ones. They have ended very nastily. And it's like, if that is your only exposure to this lifestyle, it is going to taint your view of how this could possibly work. While I have never raised my hand to be in a poly relationship, from just from, like you said, how you try to make your characters, I can understand from a mental place why it would work. I'm a very moody person. Sometimes I don't feel like being bothered. That's not good for relationships. Listen, I'm very honest. I'm self-aware. That's not good for relationships. Like I literally
Mhm.
want to go 2-3 days without talking to people. That's
Mhm.
not good for a relationship. But if you're not if you know that's how I am, and you need your ego fed, your emotions fed, your psyche fed, you have this other person to go to, and you don't have, and it won't feel burdensome to me to have to come out of my comfort zone to tend to you when I don't want to.
Mhm.
This is how it might work. Now, you can also see how there could be problems with
Mhm.
too many chiefs in the making decisions and yada yada yada. But in this relationship, particularly a thruple,
Mhm.
neither, like, even with Casmi being the docile, softer, more femme presenting woman in the
Mhm.
relationship, I don't know how else to describe.
No, I got you.
She still had a voice in the relationship. She very much was aware, like, felt comfortable to make them aware of her boundaries.
Mhm.
That was really interesting. Do you think if Casmi was not in a DV situation, she still would have ended up with Knight and Nova based on their pure chemistry?
No.
Hmm.
I feel like when Knight walked into his marriage, he was like, "No, I'm gonna be faithful and I'm gonna be loyal and I'm gonna like make this work, even if we don't go to love each other. Like we're gonna respect each other." That sort of person, since he's very big on like duty and honor, I don't feel like he would have stepped out on his marriage if that was the case. Well, I don't feel like he would have kept inserting himself in her life if that wasn't the case in the first place.
Because there would have been no reason to.
Right.
Interesting. Interesting. So this was just a true circumstantial relationship. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like what's going on, and I, being the person I am, with a higher up than this other person, am required to intercede this way.
Yeah.
But it seems like Nova gave way to her attraction for Casmi first.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't think Nova would have been like, let's have a little night out for fun, and Nova had a little wildness to her, like a
She
little.
did. She did. But I kind of feel like it's the same thing because if he hadn't brought her home, the only interaction they had was like in that bedroom, and they wouldn't have had that interaction because he wouldn't have been attacking her like her husband. So it's like, when would they have had an actual conversation? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I guess I just think of Casmi being also a part of this community,
Mm-hmm.
and because I don't want to say the attraction was instant, but the attraction for her, she and Nova more so, Knight and Casmi, because I feel like Knight could have held out a lot longer than Nova, but once Nova said yes, he was like, "Well, only person I need to say yes is my wife." Like,
Oh, pretty much.
so, and it makes me curious. Like, was Nova always bi curious?
Yes.
So yeah, like, you don't think that would have, how would okay, so if not with the Casmi situation,
Mm-hmm.
how do you feel like that would have played into their relationship?
I mean, I feel like it maybe would have gotten around to like fun things. Maybe I don't know if they would have like welcomed another person into their relationship indefinitely.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, I'm just curious as to like how your mind,
No, you're fine.
as to like how, like, because just DV is a very very sensitive topic, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
try not to talk about it too much because this is a topic of, once again, I'm not all the triggers, and I don't know who's watching this. I don't know, like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. But Casmi, she was, she was just, you wanted to love her because she
Mm-hmm.
was so naive. Even being a part of this lifestyle, she was just so naive. Like, even when they got to where her brother, she was like, "Oh, he doesn't want to talk to me." He's like, "I never said that." You took this man's word for all of these years that your family just, in her own,
Abandon you.
abandoned you.
Yeah.
Like, she was just so naive and gullible and innocent.
Mm-hmm.
and it's like my heart just went out to her even more. Like I usually like the like the main female characters, usually something about the main female character. I guess she was a main female character. This is really interesting. Two main female characters.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't in like the background. Usually in these situations it's like a character in the background, but she was very much a main character.
Mm-hmm.
What did you want readers to really understand about her character? What did you want them to learn? If they had to walk away with something, like what would it be? Just based off of Casmi's character.
I think it was more so like your weaknesses aren't necessarily your weaknesses. Like even though there were a lot of things that she may have been like not all that great at, she had her strengths in those weaknesses. Like the way that she was able to like connect with people and that sort of thing. Like just because she was softer didn't mean she wasn't good at. I don't really know how to describe it. Even though she looked weak to a lot of people, the same thing that made her look weak to people also gave her an advantage.
Mm, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
'Cause I mean, so back to the brothers, right?
Okay.
Got a question here about Knight. We kind of touched on it about him and his duality. Is he a Gemini by chance?
I don't know.
Okay, so as we talked about duality, and you said the characters are you took the brothers and you
Mm-hmm.
took these four characters,
Mm-hmm.
and how did you determine who would have what characteristics? Because that was how you based Knight off of. Oh, this brother's going to have these characteristics. This brother's going to bring this to the table, and this brother's going to behave like this.
Mm-hmm.
What are the characteristics, and how did you decide who was getting what development? Because from what we saw from all four brothers, they're very strong-headed. One's a wild child. One is I can't wait. I think it's the next brother, or is it the youngest brother that is
Uh,
sexually fluid?
the youngest brother, Bishop.
The youngest brother. Can't wait for
Mm-hmm.
that because I have that's going to be interesting. But tell us about these brothers, about determining Knight's personality. He was definitely given BDE. What else did the girl say? BDE, book baby energy. Like he was definitely a man about his business, about his women, about getting things done.
I feel like so the two older brothers, I made them. I feel like they're both more on like the quiet, serious side. King more than Knight, because King is very like, this is how it's gonna be. We're gonna vote on it. Whatever the vote is, that's what we're doing. Like he's a very logical, to the point type of person. So I kind of made Knight kind of like King, but lighter version. Like I gave him more sympathy, so
Mm,
he's more willing to see a gray area, but he's
mm,
also very strong in his beliefs.
okay.
So like out the entire thing, he was like, "This is our marriage. This is what we're gonna do." Or he's like, "If my wife says this, this is what we're gonna do." Even when they got in like that kitchen argument, he was like, "My brothers, I don't ask my brothers for advice on my marriage. I'm not taking your advice. It's between me and her. We're gonna figure it out. Stay out of it," sort of thing. So I kind of went based on their that belief system. So like Rook, who is the third child, he questions everything about their beliefs, which is why he's the wild child. So like he has, all these not issues, but he's forever questioning everything. Like I'm gonna do it, and then you can tell me why, but why is that the rule? Okay, you said I can't do it, but why? It turned out fine the first time, sort of person. And the baby is
It's better to ask
also
for better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
right.
Okay.
And then the youngest is kind of like that little angel on his shoulder because they are twins. So writing them is a whole thing because they're obviously supposed to get married at the same time. They're twins. But it's kind of like he does follow the rules, but he also has those questionings, just not in the same way Rook does. Because those rules, he follows them out of obligation, whereas Knight followed them out of honor. So Bishop is kind of like, I'm going to do it because I know that I have to do it, but I don't want to because realistically, I feel like these rules are set against me.
Mm,
So his will be more so trying to figure out a way to be his authentic self without throwing away his family's honor and what they believe in.
interesting. And these two books, will these will be two separate books,
Mm-hmm.
but will they have overlap? Because if they're supposed to be going through this process at the same time.
So I'm trying to think about how to say what I want to say without spoiling everything. Rook's book, Who Was Next, does have chapters from Bishop's point of view,
Okay. Wow.
but he's still more so of a background character. But he has at least 2, 3 chapters. So when his book starts, he will be married. He will just be newly in his marriage.
Rook or Bishop?
Bishop, the last book.
The
So
last
like,
book.
yes. So Bishop will get engaged and married in Rook's book, and he will get 2-3 chapters from his point of view, even though it's not his book.
And will it be vice versa as well?
I haven't really decided yet because Rook will be. He will hopefully have his stuff wrapped up because it is supposed to be a standalone. So I'm not gonna leave him with a whole bunch of open-ended things going into his brother's book.
Okay.
So there will be peeks into his life, but he may not have the necessity of having a voice in this book the way Bishop has to because he does have to get married at this time.
Got it. Understood. Understood. When so will either of those books be to your consideration erotica?
um, I don't think so.
So
Like I feel like
still
they're gonna have a good amount of storyline. Like they're gonna have
okay.
issues outside of just their relationship stuff.
So just but spicy.
Yes, there will be spice.
So if you had to give this book, Knight's book, a spice rating, 1 pepper to 5 peppers, how many peppers are you giving this book?
3.
3 peppers.
Uh-huh.
The next book, how many peppers?
Probably around 3. And then the
Okay.
final book, I'm gonna say 4.5.
Wait, wait,
Oh,
wait.
Bishop's book. Bishop's book.
This book would be 4.5.
Yeah.
And
And
y'all
then
better
King
get
will
your
probably bring it back
water,
down to a 3.
get your water, your milk, your bread, get whatever you need to curb the spice for that third book because clearly that's gonna be some stuff.
It's gonna be some stuff.
It's gonna be some stuff. This book had a lot of stuff. Like this book had a lot of stuff, but it was very clean. Like it wasn't like muddy stuff. It was very so hard to explain. It's so hard because it's a lot going on, but it was like
Yeah.
very easy to follow. Like
Thank you.
really, like okay, I can get into this. When you are writing your spicy scenes, where are you finding inspo? Where are you pulling from? Where are you? Because you just sitting up here looking all cute and innocent with your little
I am cute and innocent. No, just
girl, not writing like this.
um, I read a lot of spicy books, so I feel like that's mostly where it comes from.
Hmm.
Um,
What's your favorite
but
spicy book? Tell us about your spicy books that you're reading.
what have I read recently? I recently read a Lily Flowers book. Uh, Charlie Harper has some really spicy stuff.
They they tell them on you in the chat. They said, "Girl, you is not innocent." That's what
I
they.
really am. Wait.
I didn't say that. Them said it. I don't know who that is, but they said it.
Yo, that's the funny thing is like when people meet me in person, I'm very quiet and socially awkward. Like I am not a talkative person. So the fact that I write the stuff I write is kind of wild sometimes. Like when people meet me in person, it's crazy.
Everybody was surprised when they met Zane. Everybody was shocked. I'm
Was
not
because
sure. I'm not sure if you old enough to remember when Zane was finally revealed and people were
mm-hmm.
hot. Like when she did her first public appearance.
mm-hmm.
Oh baby, they were upset. And this was like either at the start of the internet, right before the internet. Like I think it was like at the very beginning where we had like chat rooms and things like that. And it was like, oh, they were on fire. Okay. They were like,
mm-hmm.
I know I haven't been reading this lady for the last 5 years. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yes, she has.
Mm-mm.
So it's fine. I mean, it's fine. Um, so we need to wrap up. We started late and I do apologize again. But what are some key takeaways you want readers to have after reading this book or any other book by ML Bash? What do you want people to walk away knowing, feeling, thinking, being?
Um, I think this book in specific, I've tried to focus on like duality. So like his soft side and his hard side, and the fact that he didn't have to choose one.
You did a phenomenal job with that. You did
Thank
a
you.
phenomenal job with that because he was so caring, and not just to Casme. Like even like I said, even how he handled Nova, he
Mm-hmm.
gave her to the space to bring her full self to their marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And even when she was having her insecure moments of like, I wonder if he's pleased or happy with like who his parents picked, like
Mm-hmm.
even without him knowing her inner turmoil and thoughts, he did a really good job appeasing her, assuring her, making sure she knew that. Like, I think my favorite scene is like with just them, those two.
Mm-hmm.
We're like right after they were married, the night that they were married, and they go to his bedroom, and they're like having their first conversation, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, "No, this is the law now. You're my wife. I don't like." Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank
Like it was
you.
so beautiful. And it was like, I think for Black men, it's important that we see their duality, even if it is in fiction, because I mean, in the real world, it's a lot different, especially with these internet warriors and the stuff that we got going on. But I think it's important to see that a man can be emotionally intelligent
Mm-hmm.
and still be a boss. He was very much resourceful,
Mm-hmm.
handled his business. You did a really wonderful job at that.
Thank you.
Before we wrap up, do we have any questions from the chat? Y'all was in here being messy. So let's see. Hi. Any questions for ML Bash from the chat before we wrap? I'm going to give y'all 30 seconds. What's next? Well, that was my last question. So, I mean, yes, we do want to know what's next. You just released an anthology
Mm-hmm.
with 4 short stories.
Yeah. Cohen and Nami, they're next from Nami's Ecstasy. They're getting wrapped up.
Okay. When will we see these brothers again?
Rook is. I already have 10,000 words written. He's already completely outlined till the end. As soon as I send in Nami's Ecstasy finish up, he's what I'm working on next.
So, summer.
Yeah, maybe like by June. Definitely by June.
Okay, so late spring, early summer.
Yes.
Any more questions? She knows she's spicy. She has embraced her inner spiciness. She will continue down this path until, yes,
Who knows?
who knows? Will you? All right. So, are you going to return to strictly romance?
If I return, it won't be forever. Like I have some stuff already outlined. So I'm leaning into my duality. You know, sometimes I want to just write a cute little romance closed door, and sometimes I want to give all the spice. And I feel like I could do both. So
I love that for you.
thank you.
Thank you so much for your patience, for your time. Thank you for sharing your talents with us. This book was so well written. I loved all 3 main characters, which is a lot because I usually hate at least one main character. Um, and thank you for saying yes to a challenge and embracing the challenge to step outside of your comfort zone. I
Thank
truly
you.
feel like this is your zone of genius.
Thank you.
And I don't mean that you can't write romance. I just mean that you adding your razzle dazzle
Mm-hmm.
is taking your writing to, it takes your material to a next level, which gives you an edge over a lot of material that's out there right now. As someone
Thank
who
you.
reads a lot. So I just want to give you those flowers publicly and just say, keep going. You're amazing. I enjoyed chatting with you. And for our sister girls who do not follow you and who might be watching this later once it's posted on YouTube, tell them where they can keep up with you, where they can find you, and how they can follow for your next release.
You can follow me on Instagram, ml.bash. I have a Facebook group, ML Bashing's Reading Group, and that's where I post all my covers and my snippets. So like my cover for my next book is already posted. And then my TikTok and Twitter are Mia Lachey, MIALESHAE.
All right. Thank you, Sister Girls, for joining us. Another interview. We will be back in April. I don't think we announced with who yet, so stay tuned for that. And have a wonderful rest of your evening. And if you're watching this at a later date, I hope you're having a good day. I hope you're having a spicy day.
Yes, please. And thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Have a great night.
You too.